So good morning, everyone. And I thank you all for making yourself available for this webinar, which is a collective action to identify and build alliances with port users on the cargo and vessel transaction. I want to really thank each and every one of you for taking time out to be here this morning. And I'll hand over to Mr. Pampa, the CEO of the Integrity Organization and the Convention on Business Integrity, to move this forward. Thank you. My name is Cynthia Apomudiare.
Okay, thank you very much, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, for joining us on this webinar today. Today, we're hoping to explore the challenges of the eastern ports. We know that, yes, a lot of us are familiar with what is going on in Apapa, what's going on in Tin Can, and so on. Quite a number of us understand the challenges that we have with the roads that lead into the ports, with the processes for vessels coming in, vessel clearance, cargo clearance, customs clearance. We understand those processes. We know there's a backlog there. But the number one question, why is most of the cargo going to the Lagos area and not the eastern ports, especially cargos that are meant for the eastern areas, and some even for the northern areas? Because from Cross River, certain places in the country are even more accessible to the north from Cross River than hauling everything all the way from Lagos. So today I will be your host. I am from the Convention on Business Integrity, and we are partners with the Maritime Anti-corruption Network, which is a global network. We will have an opportunity for a representative of the network to speak on the network, and we will start from there. But permit me to start by introducing our panelists for our discussion this morning. We have with us the Comptroller for Area 1 in Port Harcourt, Mr. Auwal Mohammed from the Nigerian Customs Service. You're very welcome, sir.
A pleasure.
Thank you, sir. One of the directors of our stakeholder director at the Convention on Business Integrity, Ms. Cynthia Apomudiare, who's also with us. Thank you for coming. We have Mr. Ofon Udofia, who is from the Institute of Export Operations and is also the president for Bayelsa and Rivers Shippers Council. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you, sir. It's good to be here.
Thank you. Then we also have Mr. Hassan Abubakar from the NPA, who is the port manager for the port complex in One in the eastern area. You're very welcome, Mr. Abubakar.
Thank you very much.
Then last but not the least, we have Mr. Vivek Menon, who is the global head of collective action at the Maritime Anti-corruption Network. Mr. Menon, you are welcome.
Thank you, Soji, and it's nice to be here in this session.
Yes, I think before we go very far, it would be good to say a few words about the Maritime Anti-corruption Network, especially about the membership and what you represent before we go into the details of the day.
Okay, thank you, Soji, and it's nice to be here, and very good morning to everyone, ladies and gentlemen. As a representative of the Maritime Anti-corruption Network, it is an organization that comprises of more than 130 international shipping groups. It includes ship owners, ship operators, cargo owners, port agents, and also other stakeholders who are very key to the global shipping industry. And it was an organization that is an industry-led organization What I mean by that is it was initiated by the industry simply because around 10 years ago, there were some serious issues faced by ships calling certain ports, which were associated to corrupt demands. And when these demands were not met, there were severe retaliation on board the vessels, which led to a movement, in a way of speaking. A handful of companies came together and stood against such actions being carried out in different countries. And today we have grown to, as I said, almost 140 companies, global companies, who operate around the world in various ports and terminals. And they operate in different segments, from the tanker business to the container business to bulk and various other specialized cargo. And over the years, what we have done is engaged in, as Soji rightly said, various collective action work or in-country work with the data that we have gathered in the last 10 years. Simply, it shows that there are various types of challenges in different countries which are unique to the respective countries, which also means they may need unique solutions, which are only built through collective action. What that really means is, with a clear partnership with the local country, with the local representatives and key stakeholders, governments, civil society bodies, and the local private sector, we are able to engage in providing solutions to everyone. Which also comes to say that we do engage our members. We engage in our members in the sense we provide a capacity building program for members to also work towards this change, because change is something we all need to be a part of. So members are also equally taking part in this capability building program that we provide in MACN. And last but not the least, we need collaboration in all angles. So there is also a dialogue in the international stage at the IMO and various other intergovernmental and non-governmental organizations globally. So we operate in three key pillars, that is capability building for our members, collective action in country, where we closely work with governments and local stakeholders, key local stakeholders, and through collaboration in a global level. Because end of the day, even today, shipping, even in these times, everyone is challenged due to COVID-19. Shipping continues to play an important role, and people working on board ships equally continue to play an important role in providing for everyone. With that, I think I will stop here, Soji, just if that is a good way to share what MACN is trying to do over the last 10 years. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Menon. Just to mention that Mr. Menon was himself, for many years, a shipmaster. So he's also been on vessels that have called at Nigerian ports and other ports in West Africa and around the world. Mr. Udofia, maybe I should turn to you, because you're representing the voice of users of the ports, the importers, the exporters. Give us a summary. What are the challenges specifically of the Eastern ports?
Well, thank you for this opportunity. I'm glad to be here. And I can see the Comptroller of Customs smiling, because he has benefited from when we were fighting that the Area 1 in particular should have beef of activity, which has not actually happened. And I'm happy that it's happening, but it's with mixed feeling. Because if nothing is done, that's why I'm happy this is teaching time. It will help us to continue in that tempo. And I'm also happy that Hassan Abubakar is here, because there are two major key stakeholders in the port. And the third arm that is not here is Shippers Council, but notwithstanding, I think they are hearing us. But why am I saying so? The landlord is here. The facilitator in quotes is here, because customs are supposed to be facilitators of trade. Then Shippers Council, on the other hand, are the port economic regulator. We've been having serious challenges in the ports down here. And as you rightly said, why do people move their cargo to Lagos? Whereas I can beat my chest and say, with the data available to me, between 80 to 60% of the cargo that goes to Tinkan comes back to Aba, Onisha, and Nnewi. So the challenges is the issue of ease of doing business. I was talking to some of my members who are shippers. They told me even when they still haul their cargo from Lagos to the east, they still make profit and sell it faster. And I said, why? He said, one, that the level of unreceipted payments in Lagos is not as frequent as in the eastern ports. One, One, for instance, if after clearing your goods, after examination with all the stakeholders, customs, all the customs son and the rest of them, between your point of examination to the gates, there's an alert. Still by the same group of people that have examined your goods. If eventually you're able to find your way out of that alert, as you are coming to Akbajo, they saw the Confederal squad, that the custom control area will agree with me that they don't even listen to him. They take order from above. So if you're intercepted in that same way now, they look at the challenges, what it takes them, and how much they spend. A lot of them prefer using Lagos port instead of the eastern port. And again, like to the landlords, though there's a committee still working on this that was set up by the federal government, we told them for the eastern port to work well, there should be some incentive. We recommended 30% rebate across board. But unfortunately, our landlord just said they are giving us 10% on harbor dues. And again, the eastern port is being tagged as if it's a war zone. When you talk about piracy, it is not only in the east. The Gulf of Guinea is there, it's happening in other places in Somalia, and business is still going on there. So in a nutshell, in summary, the cost of doing business here is high, and people prefer going to Lagos port instead of coming to the eastern port because they are also going to sell in the same market.
Thank you very much, Mr. Udofia, for making it so succinct. But let me play devil's advocate, because you have made some major things here that it's about the ease of doing business. But yes, they're complaining about ease of doing business also in Lagos. That between examination and the port gate, you will meet other people who will insist again. They want to check the cargo again. Same thing is happening in Lagos. And that when you will have another team, enforcement team again, who will stop you and insist. Some even want to empty the entire container, unpack the whole thing to check. It's happening in Lagos too. Then, although there's no talk of a rebate or anything in Lagos, and the classification as a war zone, I would say that the whole of the Nigerian area, coming into the Gulf of Guinea, most ship captains feel that they're coming into a war zone. Then maybe I should add on the table this talk of a safe anchorage area. So after you have navigated the pirates and everything, you have to find a way, a place to stay first, until you have a chance to come alongside to then carry out the operations you have actually come for. So these are some of the challenges, but I'm sure that there will be a different view from both the NPA and customs, because you cannot have the same view from outside as the people from within will have a view. So maybe we should start from you, Comptroller. How do you see the challenges in the eastern ports?
Good morning once more. The challenges we're having in the eastern port is not far from what we are having in the western port, and that is the level of compliance. Nigeria Customs Service have a robust and simplified systems of cargo clearance, both import and export. It will surprise you to know that a bona fide importer or genuine importer can clear his cargo before landing of the cargo. In other words, once an importer opens his Form M, he applies for PAR, where he gets the tax base and make payment of duty. His cargo is assumed to be cleared out of customs. The only thing that will remain is the physical examination or scanning. Now, where there is no compliance, that is, the content declared in his documentation differs or varies from what is the actual content of the container, then obviously the whole system will be reversed. because there will be thorough examination, if not 100%. If need be, there will be the need to give or issue a DN, additional payment, to those items. Sometimes the items may even be contraband. Now, why you assume multiple... So ADN, debit note, that is additional payment. Now, where you see the observation...
Debit note, thank you.
From the observation of Mr. Udofia, maybe you leave area 1 or One, then somewhere around, I don't know where he mentioned, you see the Federal Operations Court stopping a container or trying to check up a container again. Now, there's no country in this world that is able to stop smuggling. But what we are doing is to suppress the smuggling. And the fact that maybe contraband escapes from the port and it is on its way to delivery, and there's an information or intelligence from the port that so-so container number is carrying so-so item, maybe used fridges, maybe tires, or otherwise. Those are contraband items. Those federal operations he sees roving along the road, it is their duty to identify that container and reverse it for re-examination, so that if there's any uncustom or contraband in that container, the container should be intercepted. That is the reason for that. But in terms of trade facilitation and ease of doing business, this has to go with compliance. Where there is no compliance, we cannot apply the ease of doing business and trade facilitation. Importers and agents should know that it is a must for them to declare what they are importing on their Form M, eventually on their PA and their, and their bill of lading or airway bill. If proper and correct declaration is not made, obviously there won't be facilitation there and there won't be ease of doing business, because you are told clearly before you go into importation, you have verified and know the laws governing the importation of any item you're bringing in. Whereby you want to import a different thing and you declare a different thing, and you're coming to tell us because of ease of doing business, we should just release your container to go. It's not going to be possible. But any bona fide and genuine importer who declares properly, avoid contraband, pays correct duty, in fact, within 24 hours, he will be through with Nigeria Customs Service. And that is why I said, once an importer makes declaration, makes payment of duty, he is as good as being released. What will remain for him is only physical examination, which will be conducted within 1 or 2 hours. It depends on the type of cargo he's bringing. So what is really affecting the cargo movement or the challenges we are having here in the Eastern Port, because what is peculiar to Area 1 is also applicable to ONE, is the compliance. Our level of compliance is very, very low. Unless we step up in our level of our compliance, obviously we'll continue to have challenges. And we are not going to relent or fold our arms, because there's trade facilitation and ease of doing business to allow an importer or agent to quickly go or come into the country whatever he wants, or take out of the country whatever he wants to take out. In export, there are rules governing it. Import, there are rules governing it. So we must play by the rule. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. This is very interesting. I have had very clearly underscored by you is the issue of compliance.
Yes.
Compliance on the part of the importer, on the part of the exporter, on the part of the agent that is assisting the owners of the cargoes. I'm surprised that I did not hear you talk about scanners, because one of the issues around ease of doing business is the time that it actually takes to perform the customs clearance. So even if, because people are not compliant, then there's need for a lot more inspection, and even sometimes 100% examination of the container. But we do not have scanners that are working, or some people allege that the scanners are sabotaged from time to time, because it's not as though they don't get repaired. but that they are sabotaged from time to time. Then some people also ask that, but there was customs because this thing left the port. So customs looked at it at a certain place, examination was over, and by the time it reaches the gate again, another group involving customs again want to examine it again. That one is not smuggled goods. That is between examination and the gate. They're also saying when they then leave the gate, for example, it happens in Apapa, before you even go far, you meet another enforcement team on the way. So yes, we take the point that smuggling is a crime and that should not be accepted or tolerated in any civilized economy. It should not, because it's even against the interests of the private sector itself. Because if people can duplicate your goods and you're competing against smuggled items that they haven't paid the proper duty, how can you compete in the market? So there's no self-respecting, proper, bona fide trader that will not support the actions of customs to remove any smuggling activity, except they are themselves criminals. Yes, and we should accept that there are some who are criminals and they should be dealt with accordingly. But any proper self-respecting business person will want to be able to compete in the marketplace. So how do you respond to the issue of efficiency? I know that I am causing trouble because I'm trying to use your mouth to say something that will draw the Ports Authority into the discussion. But please go on, sir.
What do you mean by efficiency? Efficiency, what do you mean?
Efficiency, okay, number one, how long does it take me to clear my container? You talked about it that if I am compliant, I can get my cargoes out in 48 hours. But even with your best intentions, sir, it is until you can position that cargo for the container for examination. And that one depends on equipment that is not necessarily within your control. So even that 48 hours, you cannot achieve. And sometimes, because there are no scanners, you do not have the speed through which you have to physically look for cranes and everything and move the cargoes out to be able to do the examination. So I'm trying to ask how much of that hampers your own ability to promise this 48 hours? That, okay, if the private sector becomes compliant, can they get their cargoes out in 48 hours?
The issue in the clearance procedure of cargo here in Nigeria is that custom happens to be one of the major stakeholders, but it's not the major stakeholder in the clearance process. We may examine a cargo, release that cargo within 48 hours, but other stakeholders also have stake. The terminal operators have stake. You have to pay them their terminal charges. The transporters are there. They have to provide trailers or trucks as and when due. And of course, what do you call them? The link between gate and the examination officers has to be well coordinated. Examination or inspection of cargo is supposed to be conducted only one time. Once a cargo is released, it's supposed to continue to its destination. But that lack of compliance is what is leading to all these checks at the gate, is what is leading to all these checks along the road. In fact, the law provides that even if a cargo is released and there's an information that that cargo is carrying on custom goods that is contraband in it, even if it is delivered to the warehouse of the owner, customs will send a team to go and open the warehouse, check, and if contraband is found in that warehouse, it is being evacuated and seized into the government warehouse. So the whole problem lies on the compliance. If the level of compliance at every level is being complied with, obviously we'll achieve the 48 hours clearance. Of course, the terminal operators, with due respect to them, they know that what is expected of them. The offloading equipment like a small forklift, like the label and whatever, if all those are on ground. Our own is once the container is positioned, it is the responsibility of the agent to go to the terminal operators, and demand that he is ready for examination and his container or cargo should be positioned for customs examination. So once it is done, if they have enough equipment, they position that within 30 minutes to 1 hour, we are through with almost any or all examinations. The issue of scanning, yes, I agree with you. It is hindering the facilitation or movement of cargo in the port. That is an administrative issue. I will not comment, but by the grace of God, we are looking forward to, from now to December, at least in my own port here, Area 1, we are expecting a brand new scanner so that we can facilitate multiple, especially homogeneous item, cargo or containers. But all the problem or challenges goes back to compliance. Compliance. Custom must comply, the terminal operators must comply, and the most is the importer and agent himself. They must make true and proper declaration. Unless this is done, containers will continue to be followed. You see, it's a check and balance produced by Nigeria Customs Service. Even if the examination officers connive and release contraband, the gate officers are expected not to connive. So rechecking, they will expose that contraband and it will be checked. Those at the Federal Operation Unit or the Intelligence Unit are equally watching and doing their bit. They have intelligent operators scattered all over the port. So at any level, at any point, there's an information that a particular cargo or container is carrying an uncustom goods, that container will be intercepted anywhere, and of course, re-examination will be conducted. This happens not to all containers. A lot of containers are being delivered safely without any issue. But where there is non-compliance, where there is untrue declaration, please, the importers and agents should know that we'll continue to come after them until they have agreed to comply so that we can sanitize the system. So that's the problem. The problem is the compliance. I repeat, compliance. All of us must comply and play by the rule.
Thank you very much, sir. I like the way you have underlined that word compliance like 10, 12 times. Yes. It is big in my mind now. And I like the way you have also mentioned that is compliance at every level of all agencies, not just the importer and the exporter. It includes customs, immigration, service provider, regulator, everybody. Exactly. And that if you have that compliance all round, then things will move smoothly. Then I think this is a good time to move to Mr. Hassan Abubakar, because as you were described by Mr. Ofon, you are the landlord. Please, what is happening in your house, sir?
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, very clearly, sir.
Good. Good morning, Maritime Anti-corruption Network, the organizers of this session, a very important session, and all the member of panelists here. Yeah, when we are talking of issues around the Eastern Port, yeah, Eastern Port is unique. I'm pained because on the port, it's fully equipped to handle much cargo than we are handling today. The capacity of the port, we are just working at about 30% capacity. Or 30% capacity. So we are in a position to operate more than 3 times what we are operating today. And the major issues are, number one is security. Yes, Gulf of Guinea affects all ports in Nigeria, but more than half of the incidences that happened in the Nigerian side, especially in the Gulf of, around the area of Boni, coast of Boni, Yenagua, and Brass. More than half of all incidences. So this is directly affecting the Eastern ports. So because of that, all the vessels that are coming to the Eastern port, they have to pay what they call war insurance. They are paying higher premium. Apart from paying higher freight, they are also paying higher premium in their insurance. So overall, the cost of bringing these goods to the Eastern ports becomes much higher than you are dropping into the Lagos. So this is one of the major factors that is making Eastern port as a disadvantage. So if the government can handle the issue of security on the high sea, the government of the Gulf of Guinea first, handling the issue of the Gulf of Guinea, then the Nigerian government, and then NIMASA and Navy to be able to handle the security around the Nigerian areas, particularly those three triangular cycles that I mentioned, coast of Brass, Yenagua, and Boni. If we are able to handle the security situation there, the cost of shipping to the eastern port will drastically reduce. What is happening now is that most of the vessels that are coming here, they have to hire security boats to bring them in and out, spending so much money, spending between $10,000, $50,000. In fact, the LNG vessels spend as much as $150,000 in and out. These are additional costs. So if the security situation can be taken care of, I'm happy the Minister of Transport, together with the MASA, they have a security architecture on ground now, which is, we hope it will come to fruition before the end of the year, whereby the issue of piracy will be handled more effectively. Then when the vessels now is able to come to the port, the Nigerian Ports Authority will have the responsibility of our pilots bringing in the vessels into the port. We have already conditioned our pilots to be as courteous, as friendly, as human as possible. We will bring the vessels alongside the terminal. The beginning of the cargo clearing process is what we call boarding of vessels. The ease of doing business has prescribed that all the agencies should board at the same time so that there will be simultaneous rummaging of the vessels. Not after the port head, because the port head have to clear the vessel that it is safe for any agency to board. So all other agencies, we are expecting them to board at the same time. The customs, the operations, the NDLE, the DSS, they should board at the same time with minimal number of people and do their expectations simultaneously so that the time delays for the vessel will be minimized, because time is money for shipping. And ships only makes money when she's on the sea, not at the port. When she's at the port, she's spending money. So that is the beginning. So once that is done, the terminal operator now takes over in charge of discharging the vessel. As the regulators, the technical regulators, try to ensure the terminal operator have the relevant equipment to discharge the vessels as quickly as possible, so that the turnaround time of the vessel will be fast. Now, after the vessel, the containers or whatever cargo is now discharged into the terminal properly start, the clearing agents now come in, who is now standing in for the importer. Yeah, issue of compliance is very, very, very genuine, as the Comptroller Custom mentioned. If the Nigerian importers, together with the agents, do not try to circumvent the import procedures, definitely the trade will be facilitated much, much better, because there won't be any behind the scene. It's going to be straightforward. But what we expect actually is that the Nigerian government should require scanners for the cost. That's very, very important. Presently, we are having 100% examination of cargo. 100% cargo, 100% examination, except those that are on fast track. And studies have shown that any country that conduct more than 20% examination on the cargo, the cannot be efficient.
Sorry, we didn't hear the end of what you said. Any country that conducts
more than 20% of their cargo physical examination, it cannot be efficient. It cannot be efficient. So if we can now try as much as possible to reverse the trend, at least 80% going through scanners without physical examination, then 20%, if need be, then can go to examination. In fact, most of the countries in the Western Europe, 5%, 3%, 2%. But the port will be efficient. So the Federal Ministry of Finance and the Nigerian government should try as much as possible to prepare scanners for the customer. And those scanners have to be maintained. Just not the procuring them. There must be an arrangement in such a way that when we get the scanner, there must be a high resolution scanner so that it can get out everything inside the container. Not after scanning again, the customer will say that the images are not very clear. It has to go to physical examination. So it has to be high resolution scanner that can reveal everything inside the container. And there must be a mechanism to maintain those scanners so that there will be continuity. Not after some time, we have breakdown, or in between we have breakdown. If we can solve that problem, even the agents and the importers will be forced to start complying, because they cannot hide any longer. They will be forced to start complying. Definitely, as the Comptroller said, if a container is 100% compliant, 48% cargo clearance in Nigeria. So compliance is a major issue. Then the issue of examination again. We are also insisting through the Ease of Doing Business Directive, the examination should be done simultaneously. Customs are the leading agents for examination. Other agencies like the SON, the NAFDAC, the NDLE, the DSSS, they are supposed to work under the customs when it comes to examination. If a container is position of examination, customs have the duty to invite all the agencies that have responsibility, depending on the nature of the cargo, to come and do examination together with them at the same time. So that once any agency is satisfied with what he has seen in that container, he should sign off immediately. And that container is free. So custom cannot release it. And also, we're also requesting that the gate will also be part of this examination. And officer on the gate should be part of it. Because it is not acceptable at all where a container will come to the gate and start doing another examination.
Sorry, we didn't hear you very well, sir.
I say it is not acceptable whereby a container will come to the gate and will start doing another round of examination. That is not facilitating trade at all. So there will be need for customs to make an arrangement whereby a trusted officer for the gate will be part of the examination at the terminal, so that there will not be any need for doing another examination at the gate. That will facilitate trade. And if all agencies also are part of the examination in the terminal and they have satisfied that container, there will be no need to stop it along the road again. Then after the gate, yes, federal operations, there is a statutory body for checking in case something has escaped from the port, or if there is what they call intelligence, it is acceptable. If they operate within the radius that is accepted, if there is a particular radius that is accepted, they should stay away from the port. Then you do that their job. But be as it is today, because of the compliance level which customs are complaining, we still have two other bodies again. We have what we call the border drill, we have what we call the strike force of the customs. Immediately after the gate, we made these two different bodies again, who will now have to check you before you go further and meet federal operations. So if there's a way these things can be tackled in such a way that the federal operation will be strengthened very well, and they alone can do the after port checking, I think that will help. But as I say, if we have high resolution scanners, the issue of compliance will even disappear gradually. So the issue of even thinking of bringing extra bodies to check and recheck again, which is not facilitated, may disappear. So Nigerian Post Authority, as it is, our responsibility actually is to provide the necessary facilities for the port to operate, function very well. And as the custodian of the port, as the landlord, we also have the duty to make sure that all the agencies in the port operate in harmony as one government toward achieving the objective of federal government of 48 hours cargo clearance and 24 hours cargo operation. And that is what we are trying to achieve. That's what we're trying to do. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very, very much, Mr. Hassan. It's very clear that yes, whilst there may be an issue with compliance, which you have also underscored, there is also an issue with provision of high resolution scanners and maintenance of those high resolution scanners. Then there are also operational issues, which are planning issues that some agencies need to be encouraged to try to look at the efficiency of their processes and try to make sure that those who need to know at the time that everybody else is inspecting, they should be there to inspect. Just as we have joint boarding for vessels, in order not to unnecessarily delay vessels, we should also have joint examination of cargoes so that there's no unnecessary delay of the examination process as well. We have heard that very loud and clear, and that we can look into some of those processes. We have a question from Mr. Patterson Boleha of Access Bank. And he's suggesting that, or rather it's a contribution, that the best way to ensure compliance is to put preventive measures in place. Nigerian Customs Service should improve its internal controls to prevent non-compliance proactively. Scanners should be one of such controls. However, there's a lot more. He's here in his capacity as the president of the Compliance Institute in Nigeria. So, but the question is this, in terms of compliance, we know that there are standard operating procedures now in each of the agencies that operate in the ports. We also know that there is a grievance reporting mechanism. The question is, those who are doing the wrong things, and are not complying, is anything happening to them? Are we catching them? Are we sanctioning them? Is there a consequence management process? That's question number one. Question number two, internally within the agencies like customs, is there a compliance department? Are we making sure that customs officers are doing what they should do in the way that they should do it? Are we making sure that immigration officers are doing what they should do in the way that they should do it? And therefore, to also Mr. Udofia, that importers and exporters are doing what they should do in the way that they should do it. Do we take compliance that seriously in this situation? Let me encourage our participants that if you have questions, there's a Q&A section. Please put your questions in the Q&A section. So please, I think we should give Mr. Udofia a chance to answer that first.
Yes, thank you very much. I think the challenge we are having, that is why I represent a group. And to be honest and candid, on several occasions, remember we've met before, we have all been telling our importers or exporters, if you do something wrong, we will deny you, which is what we have done. But the challenge is that when you are punishing the sinners and the godly, how will the godly will feel discouraged? Like I want to answer from the custom perspective. Any good that is coming with LC, we know the HAC code, and you know everything attached to that goods, do not need to even much argument. Like one of my members, I can mention the Gogoni. Gogoni brought in a craft paper to enable him manufacture other things. I have the debit note. The custom just have this idea because anything that is 20-foot container should not be less than 1 million, irrespective of what you carry. I'm talking about the name in particular. So when you have that mindset, and because government has given them a target, see, custom, they do more of revenue generation than trade facilitation. I must say that. They do most of revenue generation. I don't also blame them, maybe because government has given them a target that you must meet this target. Then, secondly, still on the part of customs. Yes, I know there are people that do this illicit business, this smuggling, so to speak, but it takes two to tango. If this item has actually left the port unnoticed, this same item that we are talking about will not be seized, they will end up in a warehouse. Then how do you tell the genuine importer who wants to do the right thing? My brother Auwal, let me tell you something. I know very well that stockfish is contraband, but the stockfish head is feed concentrate. The trader does not know this. An insider will tell him, if you want to bring in stockfish, use the head to cover the body. I'm not trying to preach for myself, but I'm trying to tell you, most of my members, if you have issue, and it has to do with declaration, because even in other countries, they have what we call single good declaration. In that country, it has been declared. We also have BITEX elsewhere. But the issue I have with the customs in Nigeria is that most of the people that want to do things right are the people that suffer. And when he looks at this same man you are talking about, he's going to spend his Christmas with the other man that is doing wrong thing. And his children, excuse me to say, now in the country, it's about how much money you have, not how honest you are. So the other people will be dragged, they'll be forced. You want to do the right way. Why not come and join us? And the moment they go there and get stuck, they will continue with it. And they cannot do this without and insider. In as much as we have bad eggs among the importers, we also have them among the customs. Then to the NPA man, sir, my brother Hassan, I just got a circular from your port, from my member. The pilotage contract is supposed to be supplied by you and tugboats, and these are paid for because for you to even do, you must pay in advance. But yet there's another circular appointing a company to do that. This will also impact on the cost of doing business here because, see, I'm saying this with passion because we are at the receiving end. Both the forwarding agent, the clearing agent, our contractors, all this money comes out from the shipper, and thereafter it be circulated, it should be shared into consumers. I'm sorry to use it. There's an adage in my place said the masquerade should not throw an arrow in the market because the arrow will not be able to distinguish between your mother, your father, or your wife. But I quite agree with you that the issue of compliance, but there are things that we must need to put in place so that when people are complying, they don't suffer the consequence. I still have another debit note. So Jay, I'll send this to you. I have this document I'll send to you. I can face any panel, I can stand before any customer and say, and my customers are ready to come out. Why? Because they are doing the right thing. I quite agree with you that there are some other people that are not doing the right thing. But there's something we also need to do. We need to start to train them. There's knowledge gap. Some people whose parents have been doing smuggling look at it as a way of life. And until you tell them, no, if you do it this way, you will make more money. Because, you know, like you are talking, it's inclusive. The clearing agent is feeding on the ignorance of some of the importers. Some people have paid 6,000. I know somebody that did not get chemical clearance for NAFDA. He paid over 500,000 naira, so something would have paid 6,000. The clearing agent will not allow him. Without the shipper, the ports, the customs, the ship, they'll be jobless. So why can't we think of helping this shipper to sometimes, like Shippers Council is trying on their own, how do we let them understand that this thing you think you are making money, if you do it the right way, you make more money? I quite agree with you on compliance, but there are still a lot of other loopholes that we need to look into from the government agencies. Again, the government agencies fighting themselves. It has happened often a time. Custom would have finished son, like the issue of Odea. I still have an issue there. Son will say, no, this is what it is. Until I met the man in a program and I told him that we are writing a petition against you to your director. He said, let's talk. So if things are done properly, and then you even make custom will make more money if they are actually facilitating trade, not coming with a sledgehammer. The same thing with NAFDAC and other agencies. Like my NPA man in ONE. We're having issues with ONE, even with terminal operators. For my container to be offloaded, yes, I paid a fee for that. Because they have not been examined, and then they want to transfer it to another place, it's still the same shipper that pays for that. So how do you reconcile this? All these things are not happening in Lagos to this. They are doing their own in the Eastern Port with impunity. Let me also tell you something, sir, from customs. Your man at Apajo has used gun, he asked boss to use gun to chase a clearing agent who asked him question, why should I give you 100,000 naira, whereas my cargo is LC cargo and it is for industrial use. And we were even, I told Aparam, we were even about going to the press for that. It's unethical. No matter what the person does, you can give him a debit, but you cannot use a gun, use your voice around you to chase a clearing agent out of your office. It is uncalled for, sir. I'm saying this with passion. If we must put this country forward, if our children will be able to come and trade with us, because if I setting a wrong precedent, putting a wrong foundation, our children will think that is the right thing. And we, my brother, from Mr. MACN and you, then all our effort would have been fruitless. If you are not able to at least try to make some changes at now, and our children will now see this is the right way. If you do the right thing, you should not be punished alongside with the lawbreakers. In as much as we have people that conceal, we have smugglers, we have genuine exporters. Such people should be encouraged to enable others to join them. But the custom just to a blanket punishment because it is assumed that they are smugglers. I want to rest my case there, sir.
Okay, and it's a very passionate case that you have made, sir. I think we should allow our other panelists to respond. So yes, either NPA or customs, you are free to respond.
Yes, let me come in, please. Let me come in, please. Yeah, I like his presentation. He's a practitioner, so he's talking out of experience. Trade facilitation is very important. And as I mentioned before, as a technical regulator, we are very interested to know what the terminal operators are doing and when there is efficiency. On a port, we work closely with them and with all the stakeholders, including the Association of Nigerian Clearing Agents. My office is very open to them. I always talk with them, with their executives, whenever they have issues with the terminal operators, in terms of equipment, in terms of delays, let them relate to me, and they are doing that. And we have catalog of issues. In fact, there was a point that we have to even form a committee of headed by the MPA, together with customs, terminal operators, the clearing agents themselves, the truckers, when we were having a lot of congestion in the terminal here at Bonnet. So we sat down and looked at the issues. And most of the issues at that time revolved around equipment. So we taxed the terminal operator. And that forced the terminal operator to acquire 2 new mobile cranes worth more than $20 million. They were able to bring about 20 trucks moving containers from the ship side to the terminal. They increased their handling equipment, what do you call it, container handlers. They brought 4 additional ones and 2 empty handlers. As a result of that committee that we sat down and discussed, within 1 year, all those things were done. So we are so mindful of efficiency in the port. I don't know. What do we do?
Please go on.
Oh, yeah, you're hearing me?
Yes, sir.
So we are continuously liaising and talking with all the stakeholders, including the customs, to make sure that things are working very well on the port. But what I will say is that we have a system problem in Nigeria. If you look at most of the ports in West Africa, Togo, Ghana, and the rest, they operate under what we call single window. So we must deploy technology if we want to solve our problems. We must deploy technology if we want efficiency in our port. If we want the 48-hour cargo clearance to really take effect. Single window is an electronic platform whereby all the players in the industry will be connected to. And it reduces almost 90 to 100% person-to-person contact. Person-to-person contact is what breeds corruption. So if the customer will sit down in their office and do their business in their computers, the agents will stay in their office, will enter the single windows and do his clearance there. The only point you may need to come to the port is when they're during the examination. In fact, when the cargo goes through the scanners, you don't even have to go. The image is already with customs. And once customs don't have issues with what they have seen in the image, you may not need to come around. If you pay their duty correctly, they release your container. So if we embrace the single window technology and reduce person-to-person contact, I think 90% of our problem in terms of cargo clearance will be solved. And again, the issue of SOP, again, all the stakeholders, there is a single SOP that was developed by the Federal Ministry of Transportation for all players in the industry. If all of us would play our own roles according to the standard operating procedure, most of the problem also will be solved. Thank you.
Okay, so we're hearing that there are standard operating procedures in the ports, and there's a single SOP, for instance, that binds everybody involved from the Ministry of Transport. We also understand that there's single window technology, which also has not been put in place, but which, if it was embraced, will reduce the person-to-person contact and all of these complaints we're having about corruption and about different things that are being asked. We have a question from Mr. Obaten B. Obaten of Super Maritime Limited, Nigeria Limited. It says, my question is regarding ease of doing business. Duty calculation of commodities that were valued at 10%, and another is the same value in the power. But there is a change that seems not to be working well during duty calculation, whereby customs said both items should be calculated separately. I'm not sure I fully understand the question, but it seems like we're having two different duty charges for the same commodity. and that how does that work? We also have a contribution from Tengo Inkotaria saying that she's aware that there is payback, which is driving the ease of doing business, and Business Made Easy Crusade. What steps have been taken to address the issues with the ports in this regard? Is either the customs clearance, or customs, or NPA, or any of the organizations involved today working with the payback to try and reduce these issues? So please, I should give an opportunity to, yes.
Yeah, we are working with payback.
Okay, you are.
Yes, the Servicom department in Nigerian Post Office are directly working with payback. And we send reports of activities in the port every week and monthly, which Servicom to the payback headquarters in Abuja. So they are fully aware of what is happening in the port. They raise a lot of query, and they even rate the agencies. They even rate the agencies and give prizes at the end of the agencies. So we're working with payback.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Comptroller Auwal, we should give you. His connection just dropped, as we were about to give him an opportunity to respond to all of these issues. In the meantime, maybe I will turn to Mr. Vivek Menon to give us an idea of the activities of the Comptroller is back.
Yes.
So maybe Comptroller will give you an opportunity to respond to some of these issues before I call on the MACN.
Yes, thank you. Let me quickly respond to a comment from Mr. Udofia, with due respect to you, sir. Stockfish is not prohibition. When you hear an agent telling importer, cover the main stockfish with head, that is where I'm talking of the compliance. The body is more expensive, and the CI value, that is the value, determines the duty you will pay. The head has less value, so he wants to cover the body so that he can pay less duty. So it is not that the body is contraband. It is just a technical way of underpaying what is due as duty. But stockfish, as of now that I'm talking, is not contraband. Now, even if we are provided by high density scanners, there are certain containers or cargo that must be open. For instance, vehicles. If you scan a vehicle, you have to determine the model, that is the year of manufacture. The only way you can do that is through physical inspection. And obviously some heterogeneous items, because some cargoes don't come homogeneously, they're heterogeneous in nature. So when you see such things, the image will clearly reveal different items. The declarations may not cover everything. So obviously that will also be sent for a check. Now, why Nigeria Customs Service is still maintaining all these units along the road, strike force, border drill, federal operation, is to check whether there's any connivance between our own officers at the examination bay and the importer or his agent. Even if they connive at that examination bay and they went ahead to release, before they reach their destination, intelligence will come and that container will be intercepted. And that is why I made it clear that the law empowers customs that once there's an information, even if that consignment is taken to the warehouse, customs are allowed to go and even break without warrant, without court warrant. Customs can break a house or a warehouse where there is reasonable suspicion that contraband is kept there, and that contraband will be seized. So the issue of saying all these units should not exist is when we have achieved that level of compliance. It is happening in other parts of the world. You see, our problem here, we have, as I said, we have a robust system of clearance procedure and simplified. I say an importer can clear his cargo before the arrival, landing of that cargo. But the issue is the compliance. He will not declare the actual content of the container, either because he wants to evade duty or he wants to bring in contraband. And obviously, no matter how they play it, yes, some may escape, but the majority will be intercepted either along the road or at their destination. If seizure is made, someone raised an issue, what happens to seizures if they are made to serve as deterrent? The problem is, I don't know why some unpatriotic Nigerians are all repentant. Or is it the agent that are misleading the importers? Containers are seized almost on daily basis, but that does not stop others from repeating the same mistake because they feel they may escape. Any container that is carrying contraband, reasonable quantity of contraband, obviously is liable to seizure. Any container that did not pay duty correctly at any level it is discovered, even after the importer has sell off his good, we have the post-clearance audit who go through thorough documentation where they realize that the HS code you use, that is the rate of duty you use, is wrong. You're supposed to be higher than that. Post-clearance audit will come after that agent and importer and demand that they should pay the balance of the social consignment they carried, even if it is January they carry the container, and we are now in August. So all these things have been taken care of. I still repeat and insist, compliance, unless we achieve the level of compliance, we will not get things right. Somebody stopping an agent or importer along the road and is demanding for money from him. Why should the agent listen to me? If anybody stops you along the road after you presented your custom document and is demanding for money from you, report him to the area controller. Pardon? Hello?
Udofia, please, can you mute your microphone?
Oh, yeah.
You say I should mute my microphone.
No, it's not you, sir.
Okay.
I've muted Mr. Udofia, where the interference was coming from. Please go on, sir.
Okay. As I'm saying, if any officer of Nigeria Customs Service stop you after you might have passed due clearance procedure, your container is released, and he is demanding for money from you, report that officer or man to the area controller. Report him to the area controller where you cleared your cargo. We will get in touch with his own area controller or group leader to ask him why he is demanding for that money. Nobody is allowed. In fact, the only place, as the port manager have pointed out clearly, the only place we are supposed to come in touch with agent or importer is during the physical inspection. Otherwise, everything is now done online. An importer will voluntarily declare his consignment. He will voluntarily go to bank and make payment of his consignment. There is no way one item will have two different rates of duty. No, there must be a communication gap there. The NICE system, Nigeria Integrated Custom Information System, is programmed in such a way that every consignment, the tariff is keyed into it. So immediately you press the type of consignment you are carrying, the relevant HS code will come up, you'll see your rate of duty, and it is the system that will calculate all the duty, that is the duty, the charges, the levy, if any, VAT, and whatever, and you will arrive at your total payment, where you should proceed to bank and pay. The bank will transmit to us customs electronically the so-so container number being processed by so-so agency or importer have paid their duty. The agent don't need to come to us. The bank will generate that information to us electronically. So the level of contact between Nigeria Customs Service officers operating at the port and the general public is minimized. So why should somebody stop you along the road and demand for Udofia, you mentioned 100,000, and that person is complaining? Let him go back to the area controller and complain. After I have duly cleared my container, so person is stopping me and demanding for so amount. We should not cover anybody unless if he himself is guilty. Unless if he himself is guilty. Oh, yes. If he's asking him for money, maybe he knows he has escaped with contraband or certain uncustomed goods in this container. So he should not complain, and the two of them are liable, both the officer and the agent or importer. If anybody, anywhere stops your container and demanded for money, don't argue with him. Report straight to the area controller. If action is not taken, then you know that we are not serious or we are not talking about the due process of clearance procedure. That I assure you. I think that question you read was why somebody said he has one item, but they are charging two different duties. It's not possible. It's not possible. Every item in this world is classified in the tariff. and your declaration will determine where your HS code will go. That is where the rate of duty will be, whether it is 5%, 10%, 20, or 35%. So that one is not possible. Let him go to the nearest custom house or custom station and find out what. I think
the complaint by the person, sir,
yeah,
is that it has been issued.
It has been issued.
Yeah, that they have issued him one HS code before, and then he had another batch, it's another HS code. I guess that's how you can end up with two different duties. Because if it's by interpretation.
Yes, he's correct in that case. If you are given a PAR with a particular rate of duty, and later it is discovered that it is wrong, before you even go for payment, they will change it to the correct one, and they will send it into your email. Now, where that is not done, and during the process of physical examination, it is discovered that this cargo or item is not supposed to go under 10%, it's supposed to be 20%. Obviously, the rate of duty will differ. And what custom will take is that of 20%, not that of 10%. So it is not, it's supposed to be a normal issue where there is a mistake in the generation of the rate of duty, and later it is discovered that this is the correct rate of duty. Always the updated information is the correct one. Yes. If it is high, they may reduce it to low. If it is low, they may reduce it to high. It depends on the declaration made. So it's just normal. He should take the updated one given to him. First one is given, second one is given. The second one now is the valid one. It's not that they are saying you should go and pay for the two. You pay duty only once.
Okay, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we're on the final lap, and we will soon be rounding up this webinar. I know there are questions that have come in, and we're going to read those questions. Let me read the question first, and then yield the floor to Mr. Vivek Menon to tell us about the collaboration of the Maritime Anti-corruption Network with the government of Nigeria since 2012, involving all of the agencies at the ports. We will come to you, Mr. Menon, but just to mention that we got Mr. James Babalola of Claims Shipping Limited in Port Harcourt has sent this, and this question is addressed to the Nigerian Ports Authority. That number one, Nigerian Ports Authority has failed to keep her promises for effective and efficient ports operations. Why is this so? I think that that's what we've been discussing. But anyway, then number two, no compliance with standard procedure in the ports as claimed, despite the directive on ease of doing business in the ports. Why? Then number three, he says, why NPA forcefully posed third-party towage charges and collections on port users. Okay, so imposed is what I think he means. Why have you imposed third-party towage charges and collections on port users without due consultation on the modalities, which has increased the costs of operations in the ports? And number four, is this a deliberate attempt to kill the eastern ports? Then he says, I cannot imagine that an importer that has 1,000 metric tons or 2,000 metric tons of frozen fish and exporters of agri-produce like shea butter or kernel shells in small tonnages to pay $8,000 US for berthing and sailing of such vessels. In addition, some of the vessels are less than 150 length overall. Some of such vessels can even berth without any without any tug assistance. So if I may ask again, does it make any financial sense to sail an in-ballast ship with two tugs? Finally, why the attempt to kill the eastern ports, the separation between eastern and western ports? I'm sure many of these things that he's raising are things that you have talked about before in your submissions, but we'll give you the opportunity right after the question from, the response from Mr. Menon.
Thank you, Soji.
Thank you.
So should I wait, or would we
go ahead?
Okay. Yeah, I think this is this session has brought in a lot of points that we have been touching on for the last many years, and just to give a brief outline or background of where MACN started, and as Soji rightly said, 2012 is when MACN first formalized a cooperation with the United Nations Development Program and the Nigerian government, and where we first launched a corruption risk assessment in the ports and terminal sector. So it's very specific to that sector to understand the problems, also to understand how the practices and processes are currently in place. I think that is very important first to understand before we find solutions, and also look into the various issues that are around it. So over the next 2 years, this risk assessment that was done also laid various integrity plans. And what that meant is there was a Nigerian project steering committee in place that was formed. And based on that, we worked on trying to standardize these operating procedures all across Nigerian ports and terminals. And that was a key task that was carried out. And in addition to that, which is already mentioned during this session, is the ability to report any grievances. Not that they never had a system before, it was already in place. Now the system was electronically available as well for all persons operating in port or port users to find remedies for whatever issues they may have. More importantly, I think the project led to also training of various government officials. If I remember correctly, there were more than 1,000 port officials trained. And this is together with our local partnership we have with Soji and his team, the Convention on Business Integrity. This was around 2016 and 17 where this work was carried out. And this was very important because training brings into the awareness raising. And in addition to that, it also shares what are the problems faced by ships and shipping companies and various operators calling Nigerian ports or even operating within Nigerian ports and terminals. Having done all this in 2000, I must just go back to 2016, and one important milestone that was achieved was all this work that was done, the setting up of SOPs and the grievance reporting mechanism, which was then hosted under the Nigerian Shippers Council. There is a platform currently available called the Port Service Support Portal, or in short, PSSP. This was launched under the auspices of the Nigerian president, and the Vice President of Nigeria and the Minister of Transport attended that event, where it was officially launched for everyone to use and make themselves aware of this availability of SOPs. And even today, it is hosted in the PSSP platform, which is where the Nigerian Shippers Council is able to look at these cases when they are reported and also find solutions to this. As a quick success story, I must say that in 2019, when until then we were trying to raise awareness of this platform and make people to use, we found that there was still lack of awareness both in the national level, but also in the international level. That goes to say that even MACN members were not fully utilizing the services provided by the Nigerian government. And this is where we saw that the Danish government, with there was a project that we're working on, which is funded by the Danish International Development Aid, focused on raising this awareness to all individuals and private sector calling Nigerian ports or using Nigerian ports and terminals. What that really means is we are able to sensitize this to everyone who wants to use it. And at the same time, when they have problems, they can raise these concerns directly through the grievance reporting mechanism. As of last year, we have seen 8 successful cases which are resolved through the Shippers Council, but it goes directly to some of the points raised today, whether it was customs, immigration, port health, or other agencies. They were actively involved in resolving those issues. I remember categorically some of these cases, especially where they were immigration related, were resolved within an hour. And what I can say, listening to also today, is that also reflecting on both from NPA and the Customs Authority who's present today, that from the leadership level, there is a high level consensus that this is what we want to achieve. But as we go down rank and file, I believe that there is different understanding of these processes. And this is where the project that we're working on today enables that. So everyone understands what systems are in place today, both from public sector side, but also the private sector side. That means our members are also equally sensitized on the work that's being done in Nigeria. They are required to make use of the SOPs. And in addition, when there is a problem, they're required to register a case, which can then lead on to finding remedies. Last week, there was a case, I must say, which was very quickly resolved, again, following the same procedure through the grievance reporting mechanism, with the help of the Shippers Council and eventually to the respective government agency that was involved in that particular case. So all in all, I think all the discussions we have had so far today revolves around how much in rank and file, both sides, both private sector and public sector, really understand all these systems that are in place today. I think that is where we need to probably put more effort and put more work as well, in addition to all the other resources that are required for vessel clearance or cargo clearance. I think awareness raising and building the capacity for compliance is definitely a key work that we are willing to engage in the years to come. I think with that, I will probably stop here. I think this gives you probably a brief understanding of what MACN has been doing together with its local partners, and definitely the government of Nigeria. All stakeholders in Nigeria have been playing a key role in this work. So it doesn't go. The bridge has to be built for both sides to cross. I think that's what we are trying to do here, and we're very grateful to be part of this session and hear all the things. And I will stop here, Soji. If there are any further questions, I'm happy to take them further on. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Hassan Abubakar, we should give you the opportunity to respond to the questions before we close this session.
Yeah, thank you very much. The issue of SOP, POD is a multi-agency body, but there must be a coordinating body. That is why MP, as the landlord, we try to coordinate. We have different meetings at the port level. We have the port working committee.
Sorry, we can't hear you clearly. Did you say that there has to be a coordinator?
Yes, at the port.
Okay.
So that, because it is a multi-agency body. Port operations is a multi-agency body, just like the Customs Controller suite. There are other players. It's not only one body. So Customs is the leading agency when it comes to clearing of cargo and examination of cargo. There are other agencies, also the SON, the NDLE, the DSS, and the rest. So yes. Port Authority, as the custodian of the port, now tries to coordinate everybody. We have meetings where all these agencies meet. We have the port working committee meeting where we sit down and discuss about port operations, difficulties in port operations. And the agents are also part of it. Then we have this, we have the security meeting where we discuss purely security issues. So if there are issues regarding SOP, those issues are usually discussed there. If the agents are there, the clearing agents are in the meeting, whatever are the issues, they will bring up. Customs are there, immigrations are there, and we discuss these issues and we try to resolve them. So there are mechanisms of looking at these issues at the port level. Then again, the Port Authority in the East, because there's a deliberate policy by this executive management headed by Isabella Osman to make the Eastern Port works. Yes, they're asking for 30% rebate. The MP was able to give them 10%. It's a step in the right direction. But more importantly, Nigerian Port Authority tries as much as possible to make the ports more efficient. The draft on a port now is about 12 meters. Either though it's also about 9.710. Now we have 11.9 meters at the channel, and at the back we have up to 12 meters. So that means bigger vessels can come into the port and discharge. That is why West African Container Terminal, the only dedicated container terminal we have in the Eastern Port, they are operating over 90%, over 95% capacity. They are always overstretched. And Nigerian Ports Authority is making an effort now. In fact, we have given a list to a world-renowned container operator, ICTS, to come into ONE, so that we'll have another container operator in ONE. So by doing that, we are going to encourage more business in ONE port. So the dredging and the coming of a renowned operator will improve the situation. Then when we are talking of efficiency, we have to look at best international practice. Government is not good in doing business. That is why we are more of a regulator now than operating the port ourselves. So the torch he's talking about is an operations which Nigerian Port Authority does not want to continue to providing. And all over the world, if you go to ports where there are efficiency, Rotterdam Port, Hong Kong Port, and the rest, these services are outsourced to private sector on behalf of the Port Authority. And the Port Act has given us that power. Since 2006 in Lagos, that is what is happening. We have LCC, Lamford in Lagos that are providing that towards service. And they are charging the commercial rate. In Eastern Port, it was not implemented in Eastern Port. So all sorts of talks are coming to Eastern Port. And in fact, at the point when MPA cannot really keep up with providing talks, they allow the agents to bring talks. And that is not standard. That's not the standard operation procedure. That's not international best practice. That is against safety regulations in the port. So same policy was now introduced into the Eastern Port, whereby the third party was brought in to provide talk services, efficient talk services, and then the rates now are being charged before they are not being charged. So what is important is efficiency. Once you have efficiency, the rest will come down. Just like when we were having GSM at the beginning. You pay 20,000 for us to buy a SIM card. Today you pay next to nothing to get a SIM card. So that is what is happening, going to happen in the port. Once there is efficiency, the cost will come down. So the initial cost now you are paying because of the paying for talks. Not overall, when the efficiency is there, better for you. And that is what is obtainable in Lagos. It's just coming to the east, as they are seeing it as a strength. So it's best international practices and Nigerian Port Authority is trying to introduce into our own system to improve the overall efficiencies of the port. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. While all our panelists were speaking, we put out a poll and we got some audience feedback. And the question was, from what you have heard so far, what are the issues in Nigeria's eastern ports? Answer number 1 was security. 2nd, compliance. 3, equipment. 4, operations. 5, all of the above. We have, well, about 68% of our listeners responded, and 55% of them believe it is all of the above. Followed by 32% who say it is operations, and we have 23% who say it is compliance. We have from Mr. Nasir Saulawa, who has said that he notices that compliance, security, and other issues have been identified as issues causing lack of turnover in the Nigerian eastern ports. But his own take is different. He said he thinks it is equally the overall cost of shipping goods from Lagos as opposed to eastern ports. He said that the freight charged by shipping companies is about 25% less to ship through Lagos than for you to ship through the eastern ports. So at the moment, it is not attractive at all. So I think this is an opportunity for each of our contributors to consider those answers and make their last submissions before we round up the session, because we're going to round up as planned. Okay, so maybe we start with you, Mr. Udofia. What's your take?
I take that I want to say all of the above. And like my brother Hassan said, I think if we encourage a single window in our ports, corruption will reduce drastically because it takes two to tango. And again, the 30% we asked from NPA was across board, but the 10% given to the Eastern Port was on harbor dues, which is very negligible. And I want to claim the indulgence of all the practitioners in the ports, that even without any mineral resources, the port can feed the country and feed us. And we should try. And we are not here to indict any organization, but we are trying to see how we can work together The government agencies should work together as a team. They should see themselves as a team, because when there is an infighting, it affects we, the shippers, the owners of the goods, is without very blunt. So my appeal is, let's see what we can do. Like I said, MPA and customs are critical decision makers. They can either make or mar reports. That is the truth about it. And again, let's also see what is the position of Shippers Council in this, because Hassan was keep on saying technical regulator and what they call port economic regulator. So those two issues should be put side by side. If we have one referee in the field and other linesmen, the ball will be well played. But if the linemen intend to do the work of a referee, it becomes an issue. So I think the two agencies belonging to the same Ministry of Transport should be able to harmonize that, like the issue during the concession meeting that they had. Some of the agencies that were something like Shippers Council was not there. So we outside are saying that they are not working as a team. So if they work as a team, a lot of issues will come down, and then everybody will be better off, because NP, I believe they want to succeed, Custom wants to succeed, Shippers also want to succeed, then NIMASA and the rest, and then we want to make profit so that we'll be able to pay duty for the country to be viable. So that is my take on that.
Thank you. Mr. Hassan.
Yeah, I will summarize in three ways. As far as Eastern Port is concerned, security is number one.
Yes.
Then the issue of single window was coming.
Okay.
And then the issue of equipment in the terminals to handle cargoes efficiently. And then the interagency collaboration, so that all the agencies will work in unison. Examination will be done at the same time, voting will be done at the same time, simultaneously. The release will be at the same time. And then the multiple checks will be eliminated. And that will improve operations.
Okay. Comptroller, sir.
Yes, I've seen the table of the way you classify compliance, security, operation, and the rest. The whole issue boils down to the compliance. When there is compliance, there will be due process. Once we do the right thing, if the security aspect is handled properly, if the equipments are there, the compliance will be there. So it's the due process we must follow. Just what Mr. Menon said, it must be from the top down to the ladder. Everybody should be involved. So trade facilitation, ease of doing business can never be achieved as long as there is no compliance. Security can never be achieved as long as there will be no compliance. So also equipment and the port operation. Once there is compliance will lead to due process. And once we're following the due process, obviously our operations will be very easy and the port operation will be very smooth. So I'm still urging, I'm calling with a very strong voice that we should both stakeholders and port operators in the Eastern Port. There's no issue of the sabotage elsewhere. It is we, the typical Nigerian way. Let us comply. Once there is compliance, due process will be there and everything will run smoothly. Thank you.
Well, thank you, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. We're coming to the end of the webinar at this point. I don't know if Mr. Menon would like a last word before we close the session.
Thank you. I think I can only sound everyone's voices here, because it's very much resonates to what we are trying to do and what we have been doing. I would only urge that, as everyone pointed out, that we need to work together in this. We are working towards that. And definitely the elements around compliance has been discussed very strongly in this. This is also what we are looking forward. Both private sector, international, local, and the public sector should be aligned in that process. And definitely we should pick up on all the successes. That was also mentioned, that there is a slow progress in the right direction being made. So we should continue to pick up on those. Is what I think is my take home from this session. And once again, I'd like to thank you all for taking this very passionate discussion forward. Thank you.
Well, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I thank you very much for coming. We have a survey that we're doing at the moment, and in your invitation to join this session, we put the survey link there. Please fill out the survey so we have concrete data with which to approach the stakeholders in the ports so that everybody understands. And it's not just that MACN is saying so or CBI is saying so, but rather that this is the real challenges that are being faced by real people in the ports. Please, the survey is totally anonymous. We don't need your name. We don't need your phone number. We just need the challenge for you to share about your challenge in there. Also, we are forming a collective action together with all of the agencies who are here today and Mr. Udofia's group. We will be joining with them to try and move the agenda forward, and we will be calling for compliance officers to be designated within each of the agencies, and we're prepared to put our money where our mouth is and provide training, provide certification to international standards, and provide the support to make this happen as well as lobby people in Abuja to make sure that if they put you in a compliance unit, it's not a dead end, so that you continue to have your career prospects and not the kind that they put you there and from then on, that's the end of your career. No, we have to make sure that the incentives are all properly aligned. Well, we have spent 5 minutes over and we really apologize. Somebody is asking about the transcript for this session. What we can promise is that the link is going to be available and you can rewatch this session. When a transcript is available, we will also make that available as well. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, please join me in thanking our panelists. All the way from Norway is Mr. Vivek Menon. Thank you very much for joining us. And those of us also from Nigeria, Comptroller Auwal Mohammed, Mr. Hassan Abubakar, Mr. Ofon Udofia, and Ms. Cynthia Akpomudiere, on behalf of the Convention on Business Integrity, we thank you all for joining us. And this concludes the webinar. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Continue.